The Diddy curse is the iceberg that continues to expand the deeper and deeper you get. There are so many people that have been negatively impacted within his stratosphere, and there's an actual application point for many of us if you watch till the end of the video. But before we get into that, I remember the first thing that I found really, really intriguing about Diddy is when I heard about this situation. So Puff Daddy, that's what he went by at the time, did a song with a rapper named Nas. And Nas had a scene of him in the music video getting crucified like Jesus. He shot the scene, didn't like that he shot the scene, and then asked for the scene to be removed like a day before the music video came out. The song that premiered, the version that premiered, had the scene. So Diddy, like a good Christian, went and beat up Nas's manager, Steve Stout. This video has the original take. And by the way, projecting yourself on a cross, very blasphemous. Nas shouldn't have done that.
Yuck.
Okay. But Diddy shouldn't have assaulted his manager because he was being a Christian. Okay. So this is the video. It's called You Can Hate Me Now. This came out like 99. If you guys go look up the video today, this shot is not in the video. This is Diddy with all his jewelry on. You guys see the cross. And so this scene got him to go on a Steve Stout.
Combs was arrested on charges of second-degree assault and criminal mischief in connection with last Thursday's alleged attack on Interscope executive Steve Stout, who also serves as Nas's manager and executive produced Nas's album, I Am.
This is crazy stuff.
According to the police report, Combs and two other unidentified men entered Stout's office around 4:30 p.m. and attacked him, leaving him with a fractured arm and numerous cuts and bruises.
Once you do a video a certain way at the last minute, you know, that's really not professional to do business like that, really, I thought. You know what I mean? It was like...
Who's that?
Nas, that's Nas. Nas got the most, like, reasonable take. You know,
He's
even
like, you
though
know...
it's just not professional.
Just hit me up a few weeks beforehand.
Yeah, just give us enough time. Let's go through all of the crazy people that have experienced the curse of Diddy. This is a channel called Law and Crime.
New York rap legend Heavy D was signed to Uptown Records as its first act. In December of '91, Combs was overseeing a charity basketball game with Heavy D at a City College of New York gymnasium in Harlem. The gym reportedly had a capacity of a little more than 2,700 people. However, nearly 5,000 people showed up and security couldn't control the crowd. When organizers closed the door...
So this is like a Travis Scott moment.
I was about to say.
It's like a Travis Scott moment. When Travis Scott had the concert and the tragedy happened, I think this is at the same amount of people passed.
Stopped letting attendees inside. People broke through the gym doors, rushing into the lobby, causing a stampede. 9 people were crushed to death at the bottom of the staircase, and more than 20 others were injured. Both Diddy and Heavy D, whose real name is Dwight Myers, were cited as being responsible for the tragedy. The two didn't face criminal charges following the incident. However, multiple wrongful death and personal injury lawsuits were filed. Diddy reportedly settled the final lawsuit in 2000. Heavy D passed away in 2011 from a pulmonary embolism stemmed from a blood clot in his leg. After his passing, Diddy referred to Heavy D as the person who gave him his first chance in the music industry. Another key originator from Diddy's Uptown days and what could arguably be the most personal to the mega hitmaker is the untimely passing of the mother of 3 of his children. Kim Porter was...
Okay, so for starters, one of his big breakout moments, signing Heavy D to the label. Heavy D has this massive concert that they didn't properly plan for. Stampede happens, people die. Then Heavy D dies. We just say that's unrelated. Then Diddy's, the mother of his kids, Kim Porter, 3 kids with him. Crazy situation.
By Andre Harrell to be an assistant for Uptown Records. She and Diddy would later develop a relationship and were an on and off couple from 94 to 2007. During that time, the two welcomed 3 children together, Christian Combs and twin daughters Delilah and Jessie. But the two reportedly ended their relationship after Kim suspected the Bad Boy founder was unfaithful during her pregnancy.
You don't say.
Yikes.
Diddy would go on to welcome another daughter just months before the twins were born. Kim has often been referred to as the love of Diddy's life. However, according to former Bad Boy artist Mark Curry, Diddy was violent toward Kim Porter. Curry claimed previously
allegedly, this is all alleged.
Yeah.
Diddy broke her nose and wiretapped her phone and homes. Kim Porter passed away in 2018 after suffering flu-like symptoms just days before her passing. A medical...
Okay, all right. Are we starting to see a pattern here? This is just the tip of the iceberg.
Oh, man.
Okay?
This man hanging out with Hillary too much.
examiner later ruled she died from pneumonia. After last week's raids, Kim Porter's ex, Al B. Sure, who happens to be the biological father of Diddy's stepson, Quincy Brown, seemingly alluded to Diddy playing a role in his 2022 coma. He told audience members at the Equal Justice Now Awards last Friday that he'll be producing the Al B. Sure life story, telling the crowd, hold on to your britches and you'll really understand how I ended up in a coma. Then making a quip seemingly directed toward Diddy, you're really going to need to call Homeland Security. Al B. Sure was hospitalized in July of 2022 and remained in a coma for more than 2 months.
2 months? So now the his child's mother, her ex-husband or husband,
Yep.
that's 2 people, not to mention the initial stampede.
And it wasn't just Uptown Records that suffered tragic losses. The Bad Boy label would also suffer a series of deaths and criminal investigations. Most
This is
notably,
crazy.
the shooting death of Diddy's best friend and rapper Christopher Wallace, better known as Notorious B.I.G.
So this was a huge deal in the 90s. Diddy got into an altercation with Suge Knight. Suge Knight, his bodyguard, was shot by Diddy's bodyguard. Suge held that over Diddy. This is what essentially sparked the East Coast, West Coast thing. At the same time, Puffy and Biggie had a studio session. Tupac shows up to the studio session. He gets robbed and shot in the lobby. That spirals the entire, he goes to prison after that. That spirals the entire, and he felt like Bad Boy should have at least gave him a heads up and protected him and not let him get shot like that going to the same studio. What happens next is even crazier. Go ahead.
Biggie was gunned down in Los Angeles following a drive-by shooting in '97. The death came during an ongoing battle of East Coast and West Coast rappers, and just months after Biggie's friend turned rival Tupac Shakur was gunned down in Las Vegas. Another Bad Boy standout
Pause
rapper.
it. Now, before we go on to Craig Mack, we have to actually unpack the reason why many people believe Diddy's artist Biggie got killed. So remember, Suge felt like Diddy escalated their whatever conflict they had when Suge's best friend / bodyguard got killed by Diddy's bodyguard, allegedly. Allegedly. Okay. Check this out.
That was back in 1999. But Combs's name also came up many, many times in an incident 3 years earlier, in 1996 in Las Vegas, thousands of miles from New York, when Tupac Shakur was murdered. Combs wasn't in Vegas that night, but a man who claimed he knew Combs, who then went by Puffy, was. His name
Sheesh.
So they
Name
just
was-
arrested this dude.
This is recent.
They just arrested Keefe D
Whoa.
for the death of Tupac, for the murder of Tupac.
Stop.
Yes.
Wayne
This
Keefe
is
D.
like a couple months ago.
Davis.
Listen.
Keefe D is now charged with ordering Tupac Shakur's murder. Keefe D told the cops years ago that Combs offered $1 million to anyone willing to kill Tupac Shakur and Death Row Records CEO Suge Knight. It's important to note that Sean Combs has never ever been charged in connection to Tupac Shakur's death, but his name came up many times in the grand jury testimony that led to Keefe D being charged. A witness testified that Keefe D and his nephew, Orlando Anderson, were in charge of the relationship between their gang, the Southside Compton Crips, and Bad Boy Records. Death Row Records was connected to the Bloods. The night that Tupac Shakur was killed, a witness testified that Eric Zip Martin, an associate of Sean Combs, gave Keefe D the gun the night that Tupac was shot.
Now let's go back to the other people affected by the Diddy curse, and then I'll give you guys my takeaway.
Mack died in 2018 at the age of 47 from heart failure. East Harlem rapper Black Rob died in 2021 from cardiac arrest after being homeless and suffering several strokes. Then there are several other artists charged and even imprisoned on various crimes. Diddy's former protege and rapper
Who knows somebody with this many health issues?
So you got Craig Mack, Black Rob, Heavy D, Biggie Smalls, his child's mother, the child's mother father, who was in a coma for 2 months,
Yeah.
right? And now you have the allegations about Tupac. You got documentation of him pleading out for assaulting Steve Stout. I think he pled out for assaulting his son's UCLA coach,
Oh my goodness.
right? And so that's at least 5 or 6 people around him that have died.
Yeah. Of like
Mysterious.
strokes
Yes.
and flus
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Now, do I think Diddy was directly responsible for all of this? No, I'm not
Yes.
saying that
Oh.
he was directly responsible for all of this.
allegedly.
But I do have a point here. All right, go ahead and hit play.
21 from cardiac arrest after being homeless and suffering several strokes. Then there are several other artists charged and even imprisoned on various crimes. Diddy's former protege and rapper Shine was sentenced to a decade in prison after being convicted in the infamous nightclub shooting that involved Diddy and his then girlfriend Jennifer Lopez. Shine would only serve 8
This
years
is,
in
by the way,
prison.
that situation is crazy. Diddy gets bumped in the club by someone randomly over a spilt drink. They bump him, they spill his drink. Shooting happens. Random people get shot in the face.
Oh my goodness.
Diddy and his bodyguard get off. They try his artist Shine separately. Shine gets found guilty and goes to jail for 10 years. That was his artist, by the way. and they made it look like it was Shine who did all the shooting. There's also the story of Pastor Mason Betha, who was with Diddy for a couple years, the second biggest artist next to Big. He becomes a pastor, walks away, goes into the Creflo Dollar world. I've met Mason, talked to him before several times. Yeah. So he's has a whole nother business dealings and all kinds of, and he says some crazy stuff in his book about Diddy. He doesn't call him Diddy by name. He calls him Pharaoh in his book. I read Mason's book, right? So there's so many crazy things happening here. Go ahead.
After being convicted of firing 3 shots into a crowded nightclub following an argument with another club goer. It's been speculated the former protege of the Bad Boy founder took the fall for Diddy, who was ultimately acquitted for his role in the shooting. Diddy's bodyguard, Anthony Wolf Jones, was also charged in the incident. And while the two were acquitted, Jones was later gunned down following a confrontation outside an Atlanta nightclub in 2003.
The guy that was in that court case, where Shine goes to jail, takes the fall, his bodyguard in that court case dies in 2003.
Oh, my God.
Travell Coleman, better known as G-Dep, reportedly confessed in 2010 to a 1993 cold case murder outside a housing project. He was sentenced to life behind bars, but his sentence was later commuted by New York Governor Kathy Hochul. He'll be eligible for parole next year in 2025.
G-Dep ends up in 2010 confessing to a murder 20 years ago and gets life in prison. That was one of his artists.
Untimely deaths, prison sentences, and murders play into this supposed Diddy curse. Attorney Jonathan Handel says we shouldn't jump to conclusions.
Well, some of those, some of the deaths that you allude to were, apparently of natural causes, not violence. And so I think it's possible.
Seems like Diddy has that natural causes plug. You know what I'm saying? Like that. My first thought was like, that's a lot of natural causes.
That's a lot of natural causes.
Sounds like he's got that the guy with the vial to pour in the drink.
Go ahead.
Possible that people are making, a little more of a mountain out of that. I think it's also, it's important to recognize the, and people don't talk about this a lot, but, the racial and economic, socioeconomic aspect of this. I mean, when people come up from,
of course, the lawyer blames it on,
he's like
systemic. It's like, oh, bro. My first question is just simply, how many people who came up with Diddy prospered? Because you got a lot of people that are dead. You got a lot of people that are down bad. Shine, the rapper who took the fall for the New York shooting with J-Lo, got deported. He became a Jew. Loon became a very conservative Muslim.
Okay.
Right? So how many people actually prospered that came up with Diddy? Diddy is a billionaire.
Is he really?
He's a billionaire. Yeah. Multiple liquor lines, Revolt TV, all that Bad Boy catalog. He still owns the masters to that, I'm sure. Right? So he's a billionaire. And there's not a lot of people around that prosper. So that should be a tail sign, right? Is that you're coming up, but no one's coming up with you.
Yeah,
you're
dark.
growing and no one's growing with you. That's dark. Okay, this is, I think, the practical application for us. This is 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 33. It says, "Don't be misled. Bad company corrupts good character. Come back to your senses as you ought and stop sinning, for there are some who are ignorant of God, and I say this to shame you." Okay, bad company corrupts good character. Another way I would put it is that you are the sum of the 5 people closest to you. The 5 people closest to you and the books you read is the most likely determination of who you're going to become. The 5 people closest to you and the books you read. You don't need a Diddy in your life. You don't need someone in your life who is benefiting at the expense of others while all of this collateral damage. You have someone that's prospering at the expense of others, and there is just a complete track record of utter debauchery and just deviant behavior. And any of us who've kept up with this Diddy saga, we've known about this stuff for decades, right? We've known about this stuff for decades. So bad company corrupts good character. If you surround yourself with losers, you will become a loser. If you surround yourself with criminals, you will likely get involved in the criminal activities or be complicit in some stuff that could potentially fall back on you. If you are around people that are sexually immoral and sexually promiscuous and do whatever they want with their bodies, likelihood that a little bit of that will rub off on you, right? I'm not saying don't have non-Christian friends. I'm not saying don't have friends that you're trying to reach or family members. I'm talking about the people closest to you, the people that could speak into you, right? You have to be very, 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 very careful with the people that are in your circle like that, because this is a hyperbolic example of that. one dude prospers at the expense of everybody else.
Yikes.
Everybody else. And here's the sad part about this is like, I don't have a problem with people prospering in their careers, right? I don't have a problem with people doing well. It's just, I think a tell sign of if someone did it ethically and did it the right way is how many people they brought up with them. If you're the only one that's successful and everyone around you is like struggling and in jail and dying, that's a tell sign you probably did it in a sketchy, maniacal way. We see according to the Bible that prayer is extremely important in terms of us being transformed from the inside out when we get aligned with God's will. For the Christians watching this channel, I want you guys to implement these spiritual disciplines in your day-to-day life. And the only way I've been able to do this consistently is through writing down my prayers in a prayer journal that does a few things. One, it allows me to reflect and come to God humbly and ask Him to move on my behalf. And two, it allows me to document my prayers, which ultimately help me remember the very things that I was praying for and see the hand of God tangibly in my life when He answers them. So I would urge you, consider writing down your prayers. It could be in a blank notebook. It could even be on your phone. Or you could check out the one I personally designed and used from my own quiet time and spiritual discipline that I think will be a huge blessing. It's the exact structure and system that I've used for years to pray and be more consistent in my spiritual disciplines. You can pick yours up today by clicking the link in the pinned comment below. All right, I'll see you over there. Peace.